Hello! Well, it's still the middle of winter here, but today's not too bad. It's a couple of degrees above freezing. So I thought I'd come out and play around in the workshop a little bit by making a hand sander that I've wanted to make for a while. Now I have my power sander, and it uses 1/3 of a sheet of sandpaper. And that's exactly the size this is. You can get 3 of them out of a sheet of sandpaper. I also have one of these hand sanders, and it works pretty good. But it doesn't use the same size sheets that this does. It uses these longer sheets, and you can only get 2 of those out of a piece of sandpaper. It leaves you with this little strip of leftover. So today I want to make something like this that uses the same size 1/3 sheets that this uses. To make my sander, I'm going to use a piece of 1/2 inch MDF that's 6.5 long by 3 5/8 wide. I've also got a couple of pieces of 1/4 inch MDF that are 1 1/4 by about 3 1/2. For the handle, I'm going to use a piece of 2 by 4 that's 2 1/2 inches long. I need 2 1/4 by 1 carriage bolts with washers and wing nuts and a couple of number 8 flathead wood screws. I think I'm going to use 1 1/2 long. It's also nice to put on some kind of pad like this has. So for that, I'm going to cut up a piece of one of these mouse pads. I got these mouse pads cheap. They're $5 for the 2 of them. They got famous paintings on them, you know. But this rubbery material works really good in the workshop. It's nice anytime you want some kind of padding. It's also good to use on things like these push blocks, because the rubber really grips nice. So that's what I'm going to use on my sander. I'm going to start off by drilling some holes into this piece. I want the holes to be along the center. Now I can go ahead and measure the center, but I'm just going to use this centering tool that I made some time ago. It's got a pencil that's shoved through so the point's just poking through a little bit. And I made it so I could move these dowels to set the distance for various widths of wood. I made it for all the common sizes. So I got this set out for the 3 1/2 inch width, but it's still got enough space that I can put it on this 3 5/8. And the way you use this is you just put it on and turn it so the pins are touching each side, and slide the thing like so, and it marks a line in the center. With that marked, I can just take and extend the line out to the ends. So now I got this line here. I'm going to mark for 2 countersunk screw holes at 2 1/4 in from each end. I'm also going to mark for 2 1/4 inch bolt holes. I want those at 7/8 of an inch in from each end. I've drilled my countersunk screw holes, so now I need to drill 1/4 inch bolt holes. I also need to drill a recess so that the heads won't stick up. So I'm going to use a 1/4 inch Forstner bit and a 5/8 Forstner bit. I've set my drill press table low enough that I'll be able to remove this bit without having to move the table. So I'm going to start off with the 1/4 inch bit. Once I have it lined up, I'm going to lock it down so it can't move. Just double check that. So now I can drill the 1/4 inch hole. So without moving this, I'll take the 1/4 inch out and put the 5/8 in. So now I can drill that recess. It only needs to be about 1/8 of an inch deep. I can just check it with the bolt now and make sure that it's going to be deep enough that the head isn't going to stick up. And that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take this out and turn it around, put the 1/4 inch bit in, and do the same thing for the other bolt hole. So now it looks like this. Next I want to work on the handle. Since I'm going to be holding it like this, I want to soften up some of these corners a bit. I'm just going to do that on the belt sander. I want to make sure I leave one end of this flat. And on the other end, I'm just going to soften up these edges a little bit. Just something like that. I don't want to fuss too much with this. The handle will mount on like so. To make lining it up easier, I use my centering tool and I marked a line between these holes like so. I also went ahead and marked the center of the handle. Since this is 3 1/2, and this is 6.5, it's going to be set in about 1.5 inches from each end. Once I have it all lined up, I'm just going to clamp it down. Then I can drill a couple of pilot holes and then drive in my screws. Since I only have one clamp holding this, I'm going to make sure I put both screws in a little bit before I tighten either one of them down. That way it's not going to make this thing torque out of position. I want to make sure that these screw heads are nice and flush. These pieces of 1/4 inch MDF are going to be the parts that hold the sandpaper down. So the easiest way to get the holes to line up is I'm just going to center it on the end here. You'll notice that it's made to be in a bit from the edge. Once I got it lined up, I'll just clamp that in place. Once I've got it all lined up and clamped on, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch drill bit and mark this hole location. I don't want to drill all the way through yet because I don't have anything backing this up and it'll punch through. I can just pop this off, put it on a board here and finish off the hole. Now since these two holes might not be exactly in the right place, I'm also going to make a little mark so I can keep track of which end goes where. So there's both these pieces drilled. I don't want those 1/4 inch bolts to bind at all on these pieces, so I'm going to file out the holes a little bit. I want to make sure the bolt can slide up and down easily. So I want to take my 1/4 inch bolts and seat them into the holes. I want to make sure they're not sticking up at all. So now these pieces are going to pop on the bolts like so. You get a washer and a wing nut. I'm going to try attaching my piece of mouse pad using hot glue. So I got my glue gun warming up. So now I have to cut this piece of rubber to size. And you can use a knife, or with this thin kind of mouse pad, scissors work pretty good too. That looks pretty good. To help that glue stick a little better, I'm going to use some coarse grit sandpaper and rough this piece up a little bit. So I'm ready to try and glue this. Now it's pretty cold outside, so this hot glue is going to set up on me pretty fast. So I'm going to try to be quick about it here. Just going to start with the end. Get that part stuck on. Now I can work my way down. Doesn't have to be perfect. There, that should be good enough. Time to try a piece of sandpaper in here. I'll start by tucking one end under. Once I get it all lined up, I'll tighten this wing nut down. Then I fold it around nice and tight. Make sure it's nice and tight there, nice and tight there. Then I can bring it back and tuck it underneath the edge of the other piece. There you have it. Looks like it works pretty good. Thanks for watching.